Our story starts with a guy named Yamare. Let's just be real. This dude was a total mess. He was a self-proclaimed lonely bum who baddies like they were expired coupons. I mean, who does that? His life was a sad joke. He had this thing where he couldn't sleep at night, which some wise vampire later told him was because he was so unhappy with his boring days. His own bed felt like a trap, so he'd sneak out into the dark like a ghost just to get away from his own lame life. And what's the first thing he does on his big escape? He goes to a vending machine to buy a beer. A sad, lonely, late-night beer. That's how you know a guy has hit rock bottom. A walking pile of red flags wrapped in a pretty package, moving with a grace that a normal dude like him can't even understand. She could tell right away that he couldn't sleep, and with a mischievous smirk, she said she would help him out. He had no idea what she meant, but he was so stunned he just followed her, his brain screaming with a bunch of confused questions. This first meeting is everything. Nazuna, this crazy vampire, constantly makes fun of Yamare's awkward, pathetic life, and it's not just for laughs. So Yamare decided that maybe chilling at Nazuna's place was a better idea than his own sad life. This first hangout showed the whole point of their relationship. Nazuna, the wild vampire, constantly making fun of Yamare and his lack of a life, all in a way that just brought them closer. Once they got to her apartment, Yamare's panic level went from 0 and new. Nazuna tried to lie, saying a huge mosquito bit him, but Yamare wasn't buying it, especially when he saw the same red juice leaking from her mouth. He straight up asked if she was a vampire, and when she said yes, he got scared he would become one too. But Nazuna said it doesn't work like that. She told him that for her, biting was more like eating, and that she didn't want to make vampire offspring. Curious, Yamare asked why he didn't turn and then get bitten. She tried to explain it using the idea of child making, which made her blush and made Yamare tell her she was too freaky. Then he dropped the biggest bomb. He didn't even know what love was and didn't like girls, which made Nazuna wonder if he likes picking up soap. This was the main problem of the story. He trips, saying it would be a waste. Something inside him just snapped. He wasn't looking to fix his problems. He just wanted to escape boredom. In a burst of crazy energy, he begged her to turn him into a vampire. A wish that shocked Nazuna because she knew what it meant. He didn't care. He just wanted to enjoy the night and be free of his lameness. Nazuna, seeing a permanent food source, just said yes, her true intentions as selfish as his. The very next thing she did was throw him off a rooftop so he could get reincarnated. She then flew him all over the city, and for the first time in his life, Yamare felt truly free. This amazing moment of freedom was weirdly connected to a sad symbol from his past, a wristwatch he bought as a kid to play with friends he never had. The watch showed how he had always been lonely by choice. The story was now about him searching for a new life, a search that he could only make with a bored, ancient vampire. The next night, our boy was out wandering again, looking for his new favorite vampire. When he finally found her, he got all jealous and dramatic after she mentioned she was looking for a different, unlucky dude to suck on. He acted like a little kid and called her a thirsty hoe. Nazuna, being super practical, just said she was thirsty and didn't see a problem with it. But Yamare got mad because it meant she could get clapped by random dudes, a thought that bothered him more than he wanted to admit. He tried to claim her by asking for her phone number, but it turned out she didn't even have a phone. She had an old, dusty telephone she got centuries ago. Another perfect roast for her ancient butt. She then casually said she was exhausted from all the guys she's been with tonight, which hit him in a raw place. For the first time, he told her she couldn't feed on him, showing a flash of real, jealous emotion. Nazuna, surprised by his jealousy, finally told the truth. She had been looking for him all night and just made up the story because she was embarrassed. She then promised to show him why she's called the throat goat to make it up to him. A dirty joke that ended with her just feeding on him and passing out. This whole emotional mess was the first sign that Yamare could actually feel love, even if he couldn't name it. His jealousy, a dumb but strong emotion, was a sign of a real connection, something he was too blind to see. The story got a little sad again with the wristwatch, his symbol of being lonely. Nazuna had already made fun of him for not having any friends, which he found rude to talk about. But the watch, which he still wore, beeped, and it turned out the other half belonged to a girl from his past named Akira. He was shocked to learn that he had given it to her years ago, just leaving it in a mailbox for a stranger to find. Akira had waited for years for him to call, a quiet sign that his lonely life was a choice he made for himself. Akira told him she had watched him from afar, seeing him sit alone, watching ants while his classmates played. She said she was interested in him anyway, and that she had always seen him as a friend. This was a huge shock to him. It made him realize that he had chosen to be lonely, that it wasn't a curse. This meeting was a big moment for him, forcing him to face his past and the reasons he had been so isolated. And then, of course, the two worlds crashed together. Nazuna found Yamare and Akira together. Nazuna, being who she is, teased them for playing hanky-panky behind her back. But Akira, seeing Nazuna's vampire-like features, immediately called her bad news and blamed her for Yamare quitting school. The fight at the restaurant was a battle for Yamare's soul, with Akira as his normal human life and Nazuna as his new, dangerous freedom. Nazuna, being a sass queen, said school was for losers, and Akira shot back by calling her a trifling hoe. The fight was a perfect show of their different personalities, with Nazuna's mean but funny jokes clashing with Akira's fierce protectiveness. The biggest part of this section was when Yamare got taken by other vampires, Nico, Midori, Hatsuka, and Kabura, who wanted to know why he was so special. They were mad at Nazuna for being so casual about turning a human, because for them, making more vampires was super important. After a lot of arguing, Yamare finally said what he wanted. He wanted to become a vampire because he wanted to fall in love with Nazuna. This shocked the other vampires, who thought Nazuna was just playing with him. The vampires, especially Nico, got mad and demanded an explanation from Nazuna. She confessed that she had no plan for making him fall in love with her, a shocking admission that showed her crazy, carefree attitude was for real. It was in this moment that Nico revealed the grim reality. Yamare had to become a vampire within a year, or he never will, and the vampires would unalive him because he knew too much. This deadline added a new, scary layer to his adventure, turning his fun quest for freedom into a life-or-death race against time. The drama didn't stop there. After the vampire meeting, we saw a deeper side of Nazuna. She wasn't just mad at Yamare for hanging out with Akira. She was upset that he hadn't defended their new life together when Akira asked him to go back to school. This showed that she wasn't just using him for food, she actually wanted him to become a better person. As a way to say sorry, she kissed him, a moment she awkwardly played off by saying, "It's what friends do." Her actions were a mix of cold and clumsy, which made their relationship so unique. Later, Yamare, thinking he was one bite mark away from becoming a vampire, happily offered his neck, ready to be turned. Nazuna, with zero chill, had to tell him the hard truth. What he was feeling was not love, but lust, just a physical reaction to the kiss, not a deep feeling. This was a hilarious and mature twist. But then Nazuna dropped a bomb that turned the tables. Yamare, thinking she was a super experienced hoe, asked if she had kissed a lot of people before. She blushed and said that the kiss was her first, a stunning confession that showed a softer, lonelier side of her. It was a perfect joke that hit a real emotional truth. After the kiss, Yamare's brain was going a million miles an hour. He thought he was in love and ready to be turned, but Nazuna quickly shut him down. She explained that what he felt was just lust, a physical feeling from their close moment, not the deep love needed for him to change. This conversation showed the main problem in their relationship. Yamare, a human who doesn't get love, is being taught the difference between a quick physical feeling and a real emotional connection by a vampire who has lived for centuries without ever having a first kiss. The next scene, in a love hotel, was like a small version of their whole story. Yamare's worldly desires kick in, and he tries his best to fight them off. Nazuna, super calm, tells him she can taste the different flavors of his emotions when she feeds on him.
Variety to how your blood tastes. I love that.
This shows her as a predator, but also proves that she notices his feelings changing. The scene wasn't about a hookup. It was a clever way to show the tension in their relationship and Yamare's fight between what he physically wants and what he emotionally feels. Nazuna wasn't just a bad guy. She was like a coach, helping him figure out his feelings, even if she was mostly doing it for a good snack. Then we met the maids at the maid cafe, Midori and Arisa, who showed a different side of human connection. Midori, a vampire who gets men to fall for her for a living, and Arisa, a quiet maid with a secret, gave us a look into another part of the vampire world. Yamare, being a wannabe detective, got involved when he found out someone was taking spicy pictures of Arisa. This whole plot, which seemed silly at first, was a great way to show the character's insecurities and the dark side of wanting attention. Yamare, doing some very questionable detective work, got caught with a bottle of lotion while staring at the spicy pictures. The big twist was that Arisa was taking the pictures of herself. Midori explained that Arisa was jealous of her popularity and was leaking her own photos to attract thirsty customers and gain more attention, which was a messed up way of asking for someone to notice her. This part of the story showed that needing to be noticed wasn't just a thing for Yamare, it was a problem for everyone, even the vampires who seemed to have it all. It used a simple mystery to show a character's deep insecurity, turning a silly idea into a meaningful look at human behavior. Next, we met Kayumi, a tired office worker who went to Nazuna for her cuddly buddy services. Her story was a perfect reflection of Yamare's life. Yamare was burned out from school and being socially awkward, but Kayumi was burned out from the crushing, soul-sucking corporate world. She was sick of pretending to like her male coworkers and was just desperate for some rest. She remembered a time when she was Yamare's age when she felt the same kind of freedom at night, a feeling she had long since lost to her job. When she was about to cry from how tired she was, her boss called, and she felt the huge pressure to answer. Yamare, seeing someone just like him, told her she wasn't going anywhere and used his newfound power to get Nazuna to help him save her. The scene was absurd, with Nazuna comically throwing her out the window and Yamare catching her. He was trying to save her from her sad life. Kayumi just sighed and said her job wasn't like school, where she could just quit. Yamare's promise to turn her into a vampire when he becomes one showed that he was growing up. He wasn't just looking for freedom for himself anymore, but wanted to share it with others.
Then so can you. I'll turn you into one.
Her story showed that the search for real freedom is a problem for all humans, no matter their age or job. The story got dark when a private investigator named Anko, who hunts vampires, showed up. Her calm, professional attitude was a scary change from the fun vampire world Yamare was in. This threat became real when Yamare and his friends found a missing teacher who had been turned into a vampire. The teacher's story was a sad warning for Yamare. He had been tricked into falling in love with a vampire and hated what he had become, spending 10 years fighting his killer urges. He was in so much pain, a life of endless suffering that was the total opposite of Yamare's dream of being a vampire. Right as the teacher was about to lose control, Anko showed up and calmly offered herself as food. But when the sun came up, she forced him to hold a burning ring, making him die as a human as he turned to dust. Anko's cold act of killing him to end his pain was a direct shot at Yamare's perfect dream of being a vampire. It was the moment he realized his fantasy had real, painful results, raising the stakes of his one-year deadline and forcing him to face the scary reality of what he was trying to become. Another threat was a flirty, murderous vampire named Siri, who was a predator in every way. Yamare met her, and she immediately started flirting with him. But a jealous Nazuna showed up and ripped off Siri's arm in a moment of pure territorial anger. Their fight was a hilarious and mature show of power, with Siri making fun of Nazuna for not turning Yamare, and both of them fighting over who got to call him daddy tonight. Yamare, however, saw past Siri's toughness and followed her to a karaoke place, where she confessed her real problem. She was tired of all the guys bothering her in her DMs, a universal problem for attractive women. This led to Akiyama, a super persistent stalker who was in love with Siri. Yamare saw Akiyama's desperation and realized the man was just like him, but stuck in a never-ending loop of unreturned feelings. Akiyama's love was a sick, obsessive thing, while Siri's was a cold, manipulative game. This whole side story was a powerful way to show the different kinds of love, with Yamare's and Nazuna's messy, clumsy connection being the only one that felt real. The story used these toxic relationships to show how real and honest his and Nazuna's bond was, forcing Yamare to understand what love wasn't before he could truly recognize what it was. The climax of the Akiyama-Siri plot came when Siri, fed up with Akiyama's desperation, tried to unalive him, a cold act that Yamare would not allow. Yamare, in a moment of true heroic growth, gave Siri a lecture, calling her out for being cruel and crazy for playing with a man's feelings. Yamare had changed from a guy who just watched things happen to a guy who got involved, a change that was only possible because of his time with Nazuna. He had learned what love and loneliness looked like in their worst forms and couldn't bear to see it end in a tragedy. He used his wristwatch to signal Nazuna, who showed up and saved Akiyama, threatening to unalive Siri if one hair from Yamare's sax went missing. The fight made Siri cry and confess that she didn't want to stop being friends with Akiyama, but didn't know what to do. Yamare's lecture gave her the courage to be honest, and Akiyama, seeing this, told her how he felt and begged to be turned into a vampire to spend his life with her. Just like that, Siri said yes, and the two started their own vampire-human romance, a happy ending that was the opposite of the tragic vampire teacher. This part of the story gave a hopeful but also vulnerable example of their relationship, showing that vampire-human love could work, but only if both people were honest and willing to give things up. After Yamare left, Nazuna's inner world was a mess. She was too bored to play video games, so she decided to visit the other vampires. There, she got into a huge fight with Nico, who was mad at her for not turning Yamare and for breaking their rule to grow their species. In a shocking show of loyalty, Nazuna threatened to unalive Nico if Yamare was harmed, a statement that showed how much she cared for him, feelings she had always kept hidden. Meanwhile, Yamare was hiding from the cops and found Hatsuka, a vampire he thought was a woman, but was actually a man flatter than a board. This funny twist gave a light moment in the middle of a serious situation. Hatsuka, feeling a connection, offered to turn Yamare, thinking it would be easier for Yamare to fall in love with a guy. But Yamare refused, saying he would still pick Nazuna even if Hatsuka were a girl. This simple statement showed how much he had grown. He was no longer just chasing a fantasy, he was committed to a real connection, even if he couldn't name it. Yamare, learning about Nazuna's fight with Nico and her deal to keep him safe, felt a rush of panic and worry. He was no longer a passive, lonely boy, but was an active part of their relationship. He ran off, running all over the city to find her. He wasn't looking for an escape anymore, he was looking for her. This was a huge change from the first time they met. He finally found her at a vending machine, a perfect way to bring the story full circle. But this time, Yamare was the one talking, and Nazuna was speechless. He confessed that he had never been bored with her and apologized for everything, a deep admission that he had found the cure for his loneliness in her company. In a stunning final confession, Nazuna revealed her biggest secret. She had been acting cool to enjoy the night. She confessed that she too was bored with her long, ageless life and that her night freedom was actually a boring reality. She had been faking her free-spirited personality, and it was Yamare's company that had made it all feel new and exciting. The irony of the entire story was finally revealed. Yamare was looking to her for a life he wanted, but it turned out she was looking to him for a life she didn't know she was missing. This confession, along with Yamare's promise to fall in love with her, led to a final, emotional kiss. Their relationship was no longer just about blood and vampirism, but a way for them to save each other from their deep, lonely lives. She, the ancient monster, was learning what it meant to live, and he, the lonely human, was learning what it meant to love. The story ends with a note of hope and uncertainty, with a promise to work it out, leaving us knowing that their messy, complicated love story was only just beginning. And that, my friends, is how you go from being a lonely bum who's built like expired mayonnaise to a dude who has a 1-year deadline to get freaky with his vampire sugar mama, all while getting roasted on a regular basis. You just can't make this stuff up.